Welcome back to One on One with Mr. U. Of course, I'm your host, Mr. U. In studio with us, Linsey Knerl is in the house. She is a homeschooling expert and a lot of other things, also an established author. So we're excited to have you in, Linsey. How are you? Everything well?
Great. I'm good. Thanks.
All right, we've been waiting a while to have this meeting, so I'm excited about it. I got so many questions I'm going to ask you. Hoping we have enough time. We'll try to see if we can get through this. For all you guys that are listening and watching on all of our social media platforms, thank you for doing so. We're excited about you being here with us. And of course, if you have any questions for Linsey, drop them in the comments section, whether it be live or in the replay. We'll make sure that we get some answers to those questions. And if you're watching us on YouTube, Linsey will be happy to jump back into those comment sections periodically and answer those questions you may have. Check out her link with our new book, and we'll kind of just take it from there. So thanks again. So Linsey, let's kind of jump in. We had an awesome conversation in our preview chat. I hope we can get through some of that good stuff. But tell us about your background, your upbringing. Where does Linsey come from? What was life for young Linsey? Let's get into it a little bit.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in Nebraska, and I'm still here.
Wow.
And I am
Wow.
raising 5 boys right now. I have a daughter who's grown up and out of the house, and we live on a tiny little 3-acre little homestead, and we work and we do school, and I'm just kind of becoming the person I've always wanted to be, which is 46 years old. You still have time to do stuff, right?
That's amazing. That's astounding. That's not everybody's story at your 46 and whatnot. I want to ask you about why you got into homeschooling, but first when you said homesteading, it kind of triggered some things for me because we're doing that on a small scale here. Are you guys growing your own food too? Tell me about that. Are you doing that?
Yeah,
what's that process like?
Oh, since the beginning, we've always had a little garden. Even when my husband was working long nights at a sales job, he'd come home and he'd be pulling weeds. Our marriage has always been like, who has to pull the weeds, right? And it started small, and I think we've got a large part of our property is covered in gardens. And with the 5 boys, I mean, I can't grow enough, I can't can enough, I can't freeze enough. It's been I think a good way to show kids like where food comes from and how hard work can turn into fruit. But that fruit just doesn't appear, right? So I think more than just, I don't think it's as much about saving money as it is showing kind of just how the world works. It's been valuable for my kids.
That's an amazing lesson. I'm hoping that you're doing stuff on YouTube because we definitely are doing that now. We're showing our garden and showing the inner workings, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can see it on our YouTube channel in the Goshen series playlist. But I love this, man. This is awesome. I love hearing about it. And that message about the kids learning where food comes from. That's good because they go to the supermarket and you think it just magically appears. Like, no, it was grown somewhere. So fantastic lesson by you to teach that to the kids. Whenever I talk to somebody who's in a different geography than myself, I'm always curious about what life is like where you are. Tell me some great and not so great things about Nebraska. I'd love to hear it. Go ahead.
Yeah, great things about Nebraska. Lower cost of living, life's a little slower. If you want space, you can find it. There's parks and just places to go. Not so great is tornadoes. Like every weekend, this time of year is just like, when do I have to go to my basement? It's just the weather is kind of nuts, and I don't know. I don't follow college ball, but my husband does, and
shame on you, Linsey. Shame
on and off. So I hear it's a good thing, but I hope it continues to be a good thing. We'll see.
You're in the Big Ten. You better start following that stuff.
I know. I actually hit it. I bought a copy of Football for Dummies because I just really don't follow. And my husband caught me reading it, and he said it was like the sweetest thing ever. But I'm still trying, right?
Look what you created by extending yourself a little bit. Look what you did. You made your marriage stronger. You inserted college football into your marriage. Now look how great it is. Good job by you.
I'm trying.
I love it. My favorite team's in the Big Ten. I'm a Michigan fan, so right there's plenty to talk about. Not in head-to-head matchup. Sorry, it's not really a lot to discuss there, but it's all good though. You're still in the fight. Good job. All right. So tell me why you decided to start homeschooling. I feel like it makes sense to me based on our current climate, but you've been doing it for quite a while. I would think at least over 10 years for sure, right?
Oh, 20 plus. My daughter's 20.
I don't want to assume that.
Yeah, and we've always done it. And honestly, I kind of pushed against it because it seemed like the thing to do with our friend group and our church, and I kind of felt like it was put upon me, and so I kind of resisted a little bit, because I just tend to be that. I tend to do the thing that everyone tells me I shouldn't do. I'm just kind of like that, and
Okay, watch college football then. Watch
yeah,
college football then.
I think, I had this little baby girl at home, and it didn't make sense to me to like take her and put her in a building and have someone else teach her for 4 or 5 hours, stuff that was like cutting and pasting and reading tiny books. And I just was like, I didn't see the why. And I thought, you know what, maybe we'll just do it a year and kind of see how it goes. And we were moving at the time, and it felt weird to put her in a school and then pull her out. So we did the year with the dollar store workbooks and the reading and the songs and the going to the park, and it just, like, the little experiment, just every year we kind of just re-upped, kind of like my Paramount Plus subscription. You just kind of, the bill
I'm
comes
so
due and
jealous of you.
you pay it.
I'm so jealous of you for having that. I want to see NCIS Tony and Ziva, but I don't have that. I don't have that. And I'm like, I'm so jealous of, why is it not on CBS where I can watch it? But I digress. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Keep going.
No. So we just, we keep doing it if it makes sense, and if it doesn't make sense, then we assess. And I have grown children in college, graduating college, daughter who's married, found a lovely,
Oh, wow.
lovely guy to be her, like all you ever dream for your kids. And homeschooling isn't why, obviously. But it didn't hurt. And I look at it and I just think, had they been in the school system and dealing with some of the things, could I have helped them navigate that in the same way? And I don't know that I could. So
Wow. No, it's like you're a shining example of homeschooling that actually works. I got a lot of questions about this because I've seen a lot of kids that are homeschooled that seem to have some challenges with culture, if you will. So we'll get into that a little bit. But I want to ask you, you mentioned something specific in regards to homeschooling your boys versus your girls. Talk to us about what the big difference is and how you figure that out.
I think it's boys versus girls, but it's also like the time we live in. So when my daughter was young, internet was kind of like, you still had to dial up a little bit. It was go to the library for books. You didn't have the Audible and all that stuff. And so how we chose to interact with her and protect her, but also allow her to safely fail in different situations, just look different. Now you have the boys where they're just trying to talk to their friends, and they're getting inappropriate stuff, thrown in their DMs and all. They're just trying to live. They're just trying to exist, and it's different. It's not, the conversations have to be daily about, okay, what are we seeing? What are we concerned about? Have you heard about this? Like, everything with my boys is just an open book. Like, I see something, it freaks me out. I'm like, we're going for a ride. Let's get in the car. I'm looking forward. They're behind me or beside me, and we can just talk about some of the most awkward stuff because we're just driving. Everyone's looking out the window, and we're talking about these things that are just hard, right? And I just think the time we live in requires so much transparency and so much taking the icky things of the world just head on and being like, this is the world we live in. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to fortify you and make you ready to go out there strong and ready and capable? And it looks different, I think.
Okay. So is some of this stuff filtering into the programs you have set up, or is just like something that they experience in their downtime and you have to try to
It's everything. You're a gentleman, so you probably get the follow requests on
I'm with you.
wherever you're at.
I'm with you.
You could be a 20-year-old man completely capable of handling your own socials, and the stuff is just, it's just coming for you.
It's brutal.
So, yeah.
So
what are you gonna do? Is it gonna be, you just have to be like, this is how it's set up. You have to know what's the plan, right? Have the plan and talk to us. And so it's homeschooling is, most homeschooling problems are parenting problems. So if you're having a parenting issue, you're not going to solve it through homeschooling. And you'd asked about, some of the cultures and the things that are a little bit maybe oppressive in homeschooling or a little wayward in homeschooling. Those would have been parenting issues from the beginning. I think your parenting style is going to be 100% unfiltered in a homeschool environment, and so the kids are going to see all the good magnified and all the bad magnified. And so a lot of times when people are struggling or we're struggling, we're like, this isn't about math or what math curriculum we choose. This is about me having trust with my children or boundaries with my children or communication with my children, and it's just seeping in to the math part.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that was a quote right there. You just dropped a nugget. Most homeschooling problems are parenting problems. Ooh, I think we need to get on that just a little tiny bit. But I want to ask you about the parenting part of it, because it sounds like you and your husband Sam work together in this regard. Are you guys both involved in the homeschooling process? That's my first question. Second part of that question is, you got 5 boys, you said, right? They can't stay cooped up in the house all day long.
Right.
What are you doing with them outside or on your breaks or lunch or your summer sabbaticals, what have you, to do stuff with them to kind of, do boy stuff with them? Are you involved in that part? You have to throw in a football with them? What are you doing? So 2-part question. How involved is Sam in the homeschooling process? What does that look like for you guys in your co-parenting? And then the second part of the question is, you got 5 boys, full of energy, full of life. They can't stay on a screen all day long. They got to get out, put their feet on some grass, throw some balls around, go to the beach if you got one near you. I'm not quite sure about Nebraska, but etc. But how are you guys handling that 2-part question?
Yeah. So Sam has been, I don't know, he's the sounding board for everything. He's kind of like, he's not teaching the math, but he's the guy when the kid blows up and I'm like, I can't look at this one more time. Go talk to your father, right? Go talk to your father is like the key phrase, right? And usually he gets them from, level 10. And that could be, hey, you need to go run around the house, blow off some steam, right? And then we'll come and tackle this. But he's the math guy. He's a science guy. We have largely instructor-led, either online or through tutoring or, so I'm not teaching all those subjects. But when the kids get stuck, it's usually their dad for math and science. And when the kids get stuck, it's usually, for me, it's English and composition, because I'm a writer, and some of those things. Really, because we both run businesses from home, the kids are just getting day in, day out kind of lesson on entrepreneurship and how you build things and how you put yourself out there and how you take risks. And I think that kids seeing their father do that in a responsible way and provide for your family in that way is kind of the lesson, right? And that's the big lesson, and that's kind of what my husband contributes.
Okay. How about you and those boys and doing extracurriculars? Are you actively involved in that part? Are you out there doing stuff? Is there video evidence that we can see?
So I was not athletic. I was the kid that always got picked last for kickball.
I'm sorry.
But I did dance. I did dance and theater and piano and drums and all that stuff. And so we have a lot of we have some musical through lines in our kids' lives where they're all pretty talented. Art, music. We do, of course, the farm chores are kind of farm chores and helping dad move large appliances and furniture and pieces of equipment in his business. That's kind of the flex throughout the day. But my boys will go to the gym together, and they'll go hiking or ride bikes or that sort of thing. So it's not so
sweet.
Yeah, not organized sports, because we are pretty rural. We drive an hour to all of our extracurricular activities.
Wow.
But we're involved in a homeschool speech and debate group. The kids are really big into speech and debate. My sons compete at the college level in that.
That's astounding.
They like vocal. They have a nice little homeschool vocal club they're in, taught at the university by a university professor. And we find these little opportunities, and we're driving here. It's not very centralized, but I'm blessed to be able to run my own business, and my husband does. And so between the two of us, we figure out who needs to be where.
Okay. No, that's awesome. I love this. There's so much I want to get into. I'm trying to just place myself, but it's just so much I want to ask you. one of the things that I think I've noticed, and I referenced it a little earlier, is that, and this is just something I've just seen in a small sample size. This is not a general statement about homeschooling. Please don't at me. This is not, that's not what this is. But in my small sample size, I've seen kids that are homeschooled that seem maybe a tad spoiled, and also maybe a tad less self-aware than they should be about what's going on in their world. I don't mean what they see on YouTube and social. I mean they're not aware of present danger. They're not aware of how to deal with social situations because they're not around other kids that much, unless it's in the course of ministry at church, or maybe connections with family members. And so besides that, they don't get to see a lot of that. How do you guard against that personally as a homeschooler? How do you filter that in or embed that into your kids' development? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
I think, you're looking at two things, and I don't think this first one's what you're referencing. A lot of times kids are awkward or not self-aware or seem sheltered because that's who they are, and that might have been a big reason why they were pulled from school in the first place, right? Because you have a kid that's just so it's not causation, correlation. You're trying to figure out what came first. They're awkward because they homeschool, or we're homeschooling because they're awkward. Like we see some of that, right? Maybe they have some needs, special needs or whatever. The other thing though is we often see in the homeschool community, and this isn't judgment, it's just observation, a concerted effort to keep everybody really safe and protected, and with not intermingling with people that might challenge their views or cause them to be distressed, maybe the spoiled that you're talking about. And then they graduate and we just throw them into like a state college and go, good luck, kid. It's like throwing your kid into the deep end of the pool with no life jacket, but worse than that, like no swimming lessons. So I think creating a well-formed human is letting them fail safely. And part of that is letting them interact with different people in kind of some measured, monitored environments. You don't want them to only know everyone that's just like them. That's not going to help them. Speech and debate is a good example. My kids are in Christian speech and debate. They're debating Christian topics. They're talking about, you can talk about the Bible. You're not going to get in trouble. Right. But then you get but you get in a college debate. You might be the only Christian in the room. And now you have to figure out how are you going to debate topics with people that have a completely different worldview than you, and also win with judges who have a completely different worldview than you. That's a special skill that is not going to happen simply by insulating, right? We are called to interact with the world around us and the people around us, and figure out how to love those people. That's why I'm homeschooling my children. It's not just so they could get good grades and get a job. It's my mission, right? That's what we've been called to do in my family. And so if you just kind of put out this product that can't, my fruit is just rolling down the street. It's not, I need it to be what God called me to do. I had 6 children. They were all C-sections. I wasn't supposed to have more than 3. For some reason we had 6. It's been a time suck, a money suck. I am so tired. And if at the end of the day I'm raising these rotten little kids, what was all that for? I really enjoy my adult children. They've grown to be like these wonderful people that I love to spend time with, and hopefully we continue that. But yeah, spoiling your kids, having boundaries with your kids, it's, I think, a lot more difficult in a homeschool environment because you're with them all day, and you can't just pass them. It's very difficult, but it's a great opportunity because I've grown so much. By being a good parent, learned how to be a good wife, learned how to be, disciplined in areas that I wouldn't have been disciplined. It is a growing process. And I know a lot of parents that homeschool, they feel like when they're doing it right, they are achieving the things that, they maybe couldn't have through a job or some other things. It really feels like a great growth opportunity. So
makes a lot of sense. For it. Makes a lot of sense. You referenced about, I guess something, I guess I'll describe it, for lack of a better word, as support groups. I've heard that in friends that I have that homeschool, they have little groups where they can, I guess, experience different aspects of their education just in different places, in different settings. Uh, kind of parts for me how that works for you and for somebody who may be considering homeschooling. How does that work? And then the component of being a good neighbor. Tell me how we can put that together for us.
Yeah. So because I'm so rural, my options, I have to kind of go out and make them, right? Kind of have to go out and make my
Okay.
opportunities, which means when I find a group, I am in it, right? It's like finding a friend group or church or anything else. You're kind of committed to it. I've found some great co-op opportunities. The other parents that are helping at speech and debate, we have some values that overlap really well in how we parent our kids. And I think that's kind of the thing. Like your support group isn't going to feel very supportive if you're constantly going, well, Lisa doesn't let her kid do this and I do. And now it's a whole thing, right? It's helpful to have parents that have a similar approach, whether that's, oh, we all kind of agree it's okay to let our kids drive and go and do these things, and as long as they're back at a reasonable time, we don't have a very explicit curfew, versus a parent that might be like, I have Life 360 and I have to know where you're at every minute and text me every 15 minutes. You're welcome to do, both ways can work, but it's helpful to have similar parenting styles with the people that you get your support from, so you're not constantly doubting what you're doing, right? Like, should I be doing this? Because you're gonna doubt yourself a lot with homeschooling, because you don't have this kind of hierarchy of someone over you, like a boss or a teacher saying it must be done this way. You're really just kind of making up the rules on the fly, and you have to really be.
That was my next question. Is there a blueprint or a model for this, or are you kind of just, I don't want to say winging it because I don't want to, but
yeah, when you raise your children, where's your blueprint? Where's your parenting blueprint?
That's different, Linda. I'm not trying to go there. That's different. That's different. But
Is it?
Yeah, of course it is. You can't teach your kids a new math. That's going to be a hot mess. You still got a blueprint. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you do. So you've got curriculum with guides.
Okay.
You can have a teacher. You can have a tutor. I think we need to get away from this idea of homeschooling being kind of that 90s, 2000s vision of mom staying up late every night, learning all the material in 5 different subjects so she could get up bright and early the next morning. No. I know very few parents that do that. Some might, but I think by and large, we are business owners. We are we're working jobs. Maybe we volunteer at events. We're like fully formed, busy people. We haven't just dropped everything to become full-time teachers. That is not, that's not wrong if you do that. When I wrote my book, I interviewed so many families, and they're like, oh, we're running this restaurant, and we're doing this, and we're traveling, and we're doing mission work. And the kids are coming along for the ride, watching us do life, right?
Okay.
And then 3 to 4 hours a day, they're getting on their laptops, or they're going to a co-op, or they're doing their formal, like 5 subject learning. And we're doing that. But that's not the bulk of the day, especially in the younger years.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That. Okay. Yeah, it does make sense. Like it's a revelation for me because I thought it was the other way. The 90s version. That's what I thought was happening. I didn't ask about it because we don't have kids in the house anymore. So my curiosity is pretty limited. So I'm just kind of wondering how that works. Okay, you helped out a whole bunch with that. So talk to me about somebody. Maybe perhaps somebody is considering doing homeschooling, and they haven't pulled the plug. They haven't bit the bullet yet and done it. How do they homeschool on a budget? How do they get started?
Yeah, so we have a couple. It's like anything else on a budget, right? You look for sales, homeschool curriculum. They do sales. Black Friday, instead of standing in line at Target or Walmart or whatever to get my TV, I am 12:01 on the website of my kid's curriculum provider, and I'm putting all those courses in the cart, buy one, get one, right? So there's a
Wow.
whole discount. Like, you watch for the sales and you sign up for the newsletters. You get on the Facebook groups and you buy the used, there's a marketplace for homeschool curriculum and homeschool books and homeschool videos, and you buy that way. You can go to your local homeschool group will often have like a swap where everyone brings their books and you swap with what
Oh, wow.
um,
That's
if
amazing.
yeah, if women can do it with clothes, you can do it with homeschool materials. That's kind
Oh,
of like
my
all the
God.
different ways. eBay, you can go to
I'm
the
not touching that
library.
one.
Yeah. You can go to the library and check out a lot of your materials. And what's really great is since COVID, when the world went kind of flipped and more people started homeschooling, libraries kind of took it upon themselves to be the kind of information like station, providing all sorts of materials for homeschoolers. So depending on the city you live in, you might live somewhere where they'll send you home with like a device to borrow to read all the audio and the ebooks on, and you can get little backpacks full of curriculum supplies, and they'll actually stock a lot of the larger, more popular curriculum items for you to check out. It's not like it used to be even just 6 years ago, where you're struggling to find this archaic copy of a book that you can only find, at an estate sale. It is blown up. It's very accessible. And, there are free things. Khan Academy is a great resource, and it's free, and you can learn just about any of the subjects on there. Do your SAT prep, do your AP prep. There's just so many things available that don't cost a penny as well.
And this is all good prep for high school and college, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, I love that. Okay, so answer this for me, because I'm curious about this. In a time where you talk about the social media component, you mentioned that it's definitely an ever-present situation with all of our kids. How do you kind of help them with being social and making friends, but not becoming a slave to technology? How do you help with that?
It's hard.
Okay,
It's
I
just as
imagine so.
difficult. Yeah, just as difficult for me as it is for someone who sends their kids to public school. Because technology is the method, right? I get a little upset with my kids. I see them texting. I'm like, who are you texting? Right. But then I think about, the 80s laying on the couch or hiding in the closet with the corded phone for 4 or 5 hours talking to my
I'm
friends
going back in
on,
time over here, Lindsay.
yeah.
I don't know
And
if it's good.
it kind of feels like, okay, on one hand, we can be like, don't be on your phone 4 hours, but we use that as a way to socialize when we were growing up. So there's kind of this balance of not demonizing something simply because it's a different version of what we grew up with, but also realizing, hey, maybe at some point my parents should have stepped in and been like, you've been on the phone long enough. Like, there's that balance of understanding a thing for what it is. So technology is just how my kids communicate with their friends, but do they really need to be communicating with their friends that much? It's not that it's the technology so much as it's what could you be doing with your time. Maybe you should just invite them over for board game night, or maybe you guys should all just go to the lake, or like, maybe if you need this much time with your friends, we coordinate some more in-person social opportunities so everyone can feel included, and we're not just. So those are the big questions, and I don't always answer them correctly, and I don't always get it right. I'm always looking back going, oh, I should have had them do this, or I should have had them do that. But you live, you learn, and you try better. So
Absolutely. All right, we're almost up against it here. I'm trying to make sure I get some more questions. I get so much good stuff here. So much meat on this bone. Share a couple of homeschooling victories if you have a couple that you can share with us. Encourage these folks that are thinking about doing this. Show some of those the good parts, the victories that you've achieved during homeschooling.
yeah, I think that I have like this little 11-year-old and he's tiny. He wears like size 8 clothes. He's just this tiny guy. His name's Manny. And he's the baby and he gets babied all the time, right? And I don't want to let him grow up. I think that's pretty common. And we put him in speech and debate and he had this tiny little speech about cats and he was, he's so shy. And I came in to watch him and he was doing like hand actions and just like he had all the sass, right? And I looked at this kid and I was like, who is this kid? Well, he'd gotten feedback from older students who'd been doing it for years. And they're like, hey, buddy, try maybe, doing this or a little bit that. And he was taking the feedback from his older peers and he was he was taking that feedback and he was making it his own. And that's one of the things what we've seen with the homeschooling is the mixed age environment where these older kids, choosing wisely what older kids are around, can really have these inputs into these younger students in a way that you don't always see in a traditional classroom environment where there are 30 kids and they're all the same age, right? So that's been a big win for me. It's not just the siblings helping out; it's these other
It's awesome.
kids in the community where the world is mixed ages. We do nothing else in the world where we're all the same age, and so modeling that in your homeschool, I think, has just been a big win for us.
No, I love that. That's beautiful. What's the myth about homeschooling that you want to dispel today?
That you have to have everything all ready to go and planned out and decided from the start. If your kids, especially in a dangerous environment or, they need to be pull the kid. Like this isn't a deal where you got to get all the workbooks ready and laid out before you make the decision. But just start with one thing. If your kid loves math, start with math. If your kid loves science, start with science. Bring them home, start with one thing, start building that structure, build that trust, figure out who your kid is, because you might not even know, they maybe have been away a lot and you just kind of don't know what they're into anymore. Start with one thing and start well. And then you can always add the 5 other subjects and activities and all that as you go. But just start one thing and start well is what I would recommend.
No, I like that. I like that. I'm kind of beta testing right now by asking you this question. I didn't intend to do this, but my wife and I started a nonprofit recently. Essentially, the goal is children's advocacy and just awareness of what children's needs are related to reading literacy, financial literacy, teaching life skills, teach young men how to respect the opposite sex and vice versa, things like that. We're still developing the programs and everything, but just I'm asking you because not to promote it and try to sell you one about. I want your opinion honestly. Is that the kind of thing that would help somebody in your situation? We're doing homeschooling. Would these kind of programs help you and your kids, or help a homeschooling community? I'm trying to figure out who would get value out of this the most.
Yeah,
I know in our church community, they'll get that because the education system, as currently constituted, may not touch this stuff as much, especially now. A lot of things have changed. So can you speak to that for me? Is that something that will be valuable to you and your community? Is that?
Absolutely. We look at these things and we kind of have this checklist in our brains of things we want our kids to be able to do before they leave the house. And then you get summer before college and you're like, oh no, I got to teach you how to change a tire, all this stuff. You get kind of crazy with it. But you look back and you're like financial literacy, the how to talk, the social skills, all that stuff is super important. I think in homeschoolers' minds, we might be a little more aware of the need for it because we feel like it's something we have time to do. And then we get to the end of the road and we kind of look back and we go, I wish I had tackled this in a more structured, formal way. Just because there's a lot of moving pieces, to be able to have something that's structured where you can go, okay, have we talked about this? Where are we going with this? Something you can check or track or, stand beside them and see their progress, I think would be immensely valuable. Not that we couldn't teach some of these things ourselves, but we're really overwhelmed. And just having something that's really structured and put together for us, definitely, I feel like most homeschoolers would find that valuable.
Okay. We're trying to figure out what that looks like. We're still figuring it out. The name of the nonprofit is Save the Children SC. We're just trying to figure out how that works. Is it going to be online? Is it going to be a hybrid? We haven't gotten that far. We're brand new, so we're giving ourselves room to grow with this, but that advice was valuable. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. You've done so many things. Your work has put you in this place where you become a trusted source for families regarding homeschooling, or you've been on in Time Magazine and Better Homes and Gardens and Reader Digest. Talk to me about why you decided to put your book out there. I know it seems these days everybody has a story, think they should be an author. It seems to be natural, or to get advised to do that by well-meaning friends. But your book, Homeschool Hacks, How to Give Your Kids a Great Education Without Losing Your Job or Your Mind. Tell us why you decided to write that book and what you hope to see happen in the lives of the readers. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that was a passion project I started many, many years ago, and there just was no interest. And then the pandemic came, and I was like, I wonder, and yeah, got it out there, right? The publisher picked it up and was pretty excited to push that book out about as fast as we could get it out. But what I like about it is it's not the best-selling book. It's not the book that they talk about on the news when they're like trying to cover some really like tense issue, right? And I was trying to be careful that anybody could maybe just pick it up on a Friday, read through it, and feel like by Monday they at least had the assurance that we can do this, right? That was the goal. And I do get the feedback that I get is often, oh, I'm well beyond my homeschooling journey. This is the book I wished I had. So my goal is that maybe parents who aren't around a community that's as supportive as they hoped, or they're not hearing the things from their moms and dads or aunts and uncles that they need to hear. Maybe there's some family pushback or some doubt, that they can read it and yes, learn about the different styles and maybe how to create a schedule and that sort of thing. But more than that, just feel like as a parent, we already have a lot of that in us to be able to do it. We just need to be kind of talked through the process of it. And that's really what the book is.
I love it. That's fantastic. I only have time for 2 more questions. So we're going to go ahead and try to get through this as good as we can. The next to last question is this. What caused or what inspired the launch of your media company, Knerl Family Media? Tell us what you guys are doing. What brought this about?
Yeah, so we started out with blogging and YouTubing and all that stuff way back when blogs were blogspot.com and all that stuff, right? And it just kind of grew. It gave me the opportunities to do the freelance writing, to get into some different projects, do some public speaking, conferences, that sort of thing. And now it's kind of evolved into marketing and consulting for brands and nonprofits that want to get into the homeschool space. So we're kind of matching up what I've learned as an influencer so many years ago with what I know the homeschool community needs, and trying to like be like you didn't know that homeschool moms weren't sitting there doing all the subjects at the table, right? So maybe a brand doesn't know that either. So when they're creating their marketing assets, that's something that would be important to know before they start making ads. So that sort of conversation, and then just doing a lot of market research. We're learning a lot of really neat things about homeschool parents and what they look like and what they want. And so we're trying to gather that information and use it in useful ways to get better learning materials to the families that need them most.
It sounds like when I hear the name, it just sounds like the whole family's involved, and it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy in here. I'm like, really? This is awesome.
They
like
are
the Partridge Family. I haven't heard. This is great. No, I love that. Okay. The last question I always ask all of our guests, they know when they come on when I ask this question. Usually I prep them for it. Sometimes it's a surprise. It requires every guest to think, though. So if you were not authoring books, if you were not homeschooling 6 children, what is Linsey doing with her life? Career, vocation, mission-wise, whatever it is. What are you doing in your mind? No doubt, this is what you'll be doing. If you weren't doing homeschooling, authoring, consulting, any of those things, what are you doing?
I would be a scientist in a little lab.
What are you talking about? Really?
Yes.
I didn't expect that.
So when I have these pictures looking back in the year that all of my cousins got these dolls, it's us in front of the Christmas tree. All the girl cousins are holding these dolls, and I'm holding up my chemistry set. And I just should have known back then that I was learning and science and data and discovery was just kind of going to be like my engine. And I still use that like in everything I do, as curiosity and like learning is, I think, why homeschooling is so fulfilling for me. But I would just shut the door and make some discovery. Just spend years making a discovery. That would be like the thing that would be my ultimate, I think.
Oh, that's supposed to be my last question, but now I got to follow up. So how many kids caught that science bug and now they're into science-y things now? How many kids got that?
I would have thought more because they have all started that way, but now I have an artist, communications, geography, geology, so a little bit geology, and then the 2 babies I don't know. And I think they use that to inform, they see something on the news and they're like, I'm going to check this out a little bit, which is exactly what you want, like for a kid to go.
That's
and
how I grew up.
Yeah,
I was a researcher. Like, I'm like, that can't be true. Yeah. Let's see. Grab my Encyclopedia Britannica and go to work.
Exactly. So I think the scientist bug is just kind of in their DNA and they can't get away from it. I don't know how they'll use that, but yeah.
I'm excited. It was an absolute honor to connect with you and hear the story about homeschooling and just kind of demystify some of this stuff. I hope the people who are listening and watching got a mouthful of what homeschooling is like. You shared so much, I don't know how they couldn't. But they can find you. They can find your work, or you're on Twitter. I know that, and you have a link for the listeners. www.homeschoolhacksbook.com, right? Mm-hmm. Homeschoolhacksbook.com. Hope I didn't butcher that. Okay. We talking about homeschool on a budget. How you kind of deconstruct the myth of weird, unsocialized homeschoolers. You talk about so much. So I'm excited to have people come and find out what you're doing and find you. But thanks for doing this. Any closing thoughts before we jump off?
No, just have some faith. You were given these babies to care for, and you have what you need to get the job done. Just reach out and ask for help. I think most people can do this.
Ooh, I love it. That's very encouraging. If I had kids, I think I would give it a try because I like it better than the alternative. But Linsey and Mr. Yu, we're out of here. Thanks again for watching and listening. Please jump on our YouTube channel. Linsey's going to drop some links out there under the episode. You can contact her, ask any questions, ask me any questions, and we'll be sure to connect her or connect you guys to all pro work that she's doing. So thanks again for watching and listening. Have a fantastic day. We're out of here.